Hello and welcome, I'm Ali Mustafa with a special edition of Strait Talk from one of Christianity's most sacred sites, Bethlehem, in the occupied West Bank. A decision that ended a delicate status quo that for decades several US administrations painstakingly upheld. US President Donald Trump officially recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. But in a near unanimous disapproval, the United Nations condemned the move. At a vote at the General Assembly on Thursday, 128 member countries voted in favor of the resolution supporting long-standing international consensus that the status of Jerusalem can only be settled as a final issue in a peace deal. 35 countries abstained and 9 voted against. The vote passed despite earlier threats by President Trump warning that the US would stop providing aid to countries who voted for the UNGA resolution.
For all of these nations that take our money and then they vote against us at the Security Council, or they vote against us potentially at the Assembly. They take hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars and then they vote against us. Well, we're watching those votes. Let them vote against us. We'll save a lot. We don't care.
The vote highlighted for a second time in a week the international isolation of the United States over the status of Jerusalem following a similar vote at the Security Council on Tuesday. Turkey co-sponsored the latest resolution, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan slammed what he termed as American threats.
Bu tür şantajlar, uluslararası sistemin omurgasını oluşturan Birleşmiş Milletler gibi kurumların tüm ülkelerin iradesini yansıtma vasfına darbe vurmaktadır. Birleşmiş Milletler Genel Kurulu tehditlere rağmen onurlu bir duruş sergileyerek 128 kabul oyuna karşı 9 red oyuyla Kudüs'le ilgili kararı kabul etmiştir.
Meanwhile, protests have continued across Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories. People came out in force after Friday prayers in Bethlehem in response to a call by Palestinian leaders for another day of rage. At the heart of the issue is the US Embassy located in Tel Aviv. There, I met with protesters who found themselves at odds with the majority of Israelis as well as Palestinians. They're Arab Israelis often accused of having divided loyalties by both sides. But at the protest, they said they were united with the Palestinians on the status of Jerusalem.
This demonstration is to tell those who are sitting in the embassy inside what we feel about Trump's decision. We are full of anger. We think that he made a serious mistake and his intervention in our region is going to lead to disasters. Our demands, first of all, from the Israeli government to understand that there are dangerous effects of such a decision.
What would you say to people that Trump's decision and announcement has brought Jerusalem back in the focus, that it has actually helped the Palestinians in bringing the issue up?
We know that eventually the history has taught us that occupation should end eventually. It's true that it brought the question of Jerusalem into the heart of the Palestinian issue and into the hearts of the people again and the minds of the people. But I say to them, if you really care about Jerusalem, if you really care about Al-Quds, embassies of the United States should be out. Your country, you should demand from your countries, first of all, to call back your ambassadors from the United States as a diplomatic way of telling that what has been decided is not accepted.
Ahmed Tibi, who was also at the protest in Tel Aviv, is a member of the Israeli Knesset. He said there were no divisions between the Palestinians and Israeli Arabs on the issue of the occupation. You are an Israeli Arab, you're an Israeli lawmaker. Mahmoud Abbas is the head of the Palestinian Authority, which some say is dysfunctional, so there's not even a united front.
We are all united in the issue of Al-Quds, Al-Quds al-Sharif. That's why we are demonstrating all over these days, and we will continue. And this voice is being delivered to the whole international community, especially here. in front of this embassy. Al-Quds is the capital of Palestine.
Are we looking at the beginning of a third intifada?
It's an anger. The model of resistance in last July in Al-Aqsa Mosque, thousands of people made a huge victory in Netanyahu's decision, then without one bullet, was obvious, tangible, and we are proud of them. People will continue to say it loudly, Al-Quds, Arabiya.
Being an Arab Israeli might seem like a contradiction to some, but Arabs account for 20% of Israel's population. That's 1.5 million Arab citizens of Israel. Their story, the decades following the creation of Israel in 1948, had been one of shrinking demographics. Once Arab-majority areas saw their numbers dwindle as the Jewish population of Israel expanded. Unable to fully identify with the majority of Israelis along cultural, linguistic and religious lines, Arab Israelis also found themselves at odds with the millions of Palestinians in the occupied territories. And that crisis of identity for Israeli Arabs has played out at all levels. I met up with Ayman Odeh, a member of the Israeli Knesset, who told me about the difficulty of identifying both as an Israeli and an Arab at the same time. Do they ask you where your loyalties lie on this issue?
I am loyal to the true interests of both peoples. This means establishing a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital, with Israel next to it. This is in the real interest of both the Palestinians and the Israelis. I am not alone in my opinion. There are also democratic Jews who are members of the Joint List who support this, and also the Meretz Party, and parts of the left in the Israeli Labor Party. Today, the entire world is on the side that I represent. Only Netanyahu's administration, along with Trump and Micronesia, are on the other side. Therefore, I do not represent an unusual opinion, but rather a global consensus. Israel is the isolated one, not me.
You're one of the 20% of the Israeli population that is a citizen, an Arab Israeli citizen of Israel. There are millions of Palestinians that don't have the same privileges as you do. What happens to those Palestinians? Is the two-state solution dead? And what kind of status will the Palestinians have if there's only one-state solution left?
Now, I'd like to tell you, after 30,000 Palestinian martyrs, after we convinced the world about the importance of establishing a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, and after UN Security Resolution 2334, after negotiations between Mahmoud Abbas and Olmert regarding Arab neighborhoods in East Jerusalem, and after half of Israel started to believe in the two-state solution, would it be wise to give up this solution for another that has no plan or clear strategy? I'm telling you, there is an attack on the two-state solution because it is indeed possible.
You are visibly upset at the Americans and you think that they are to blame, but many people say that the Palestinian Authority is also to blame for this, what has happened, because the peace process has been stalled. Is Mahmoud Abbas to blame? Is the PA to blame for this?
You're speaking to me while I am inside the parliament that occupies the Palestinian people. From my position here, I am obliged to be against the Israeli occupation. I cannot sit a meter away from Netanyahu and criticize the Palestinian leadership. I don't care who the leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization is. I stand by the Palestinian leadership against the Israeli occupation, and any criticism I have would be only directed towards the criminal Israeli occupation in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem.
Should everyone then push towards becoming or asking for equal rights in a united Israel? The Palestinians, that is.
Is it the right time for us to say we'll give up the cottage in exchange for an illusion of a palace? In my opinion, we shouldn't go that way. People want a palace in the sun for the Palestinians. The only possible and realistic solution is establishing a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, and we should not overlook this. Then other options can be pursued. having open borders, strong ties economically, and other things in general. However, there is a right that must not be ignored, and that is establishing the Palestinian state within the 1967 borders.
I'm Onote. Thank you.
شكرا. Thank you.
Condemnation against the US decision on Jerusalem has not only put Arab Israelis in a tight spot, it's also led to debate within Israel's Jewish majority, especially in intellectual circles. Amira Haas is the only Jewish Israeli living in the occupied West Bank. The simple fact, she says, speaks of how disconnected the Israeli public is from the reality of the occupation.
First of all, I would say that the word occupation has been almost erased from the Israeli dictionary. The general Israeli dictionary doesn't know it anymore. It is Yehuda and Samaria, it is Palestinian, there is an assumption that there is Palestinian sovereignty within the enclaves that have been created over the years during the Oslo process. So that there is an idea that there is a sovereignty over there. So what are they complaining about? Occupation. And God promised us the land, and Oslo says that 60% of the land is to be negotiated, which means it is Israeli. This is the general, I would say, a bit in a caricature way, but the general attitude is that occupation is not, it is not occupation anymore. That since Oslo, that since the establishment of the Palestinian Authority, occupation stopped, let alone Gaza, they believe that it is not occupied at all. Of course, this is not my opinion. I think that everything is occupied, including East Jerusalem. Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the West Bank were all occupied militarily in 1967, and they are still today occupied by Israel, which means Palestinians there do not have the freedom to choose their life, to choose their political course, to be safe in their own homes, to be safe in their own land, and to guarantee a future for their children. Everything is in the hands of Israel. So this is the general Israeli idea. And because it is not occupation, they view any Palestinian opposition or resistance to the reality as terrorism, or as being ungrateful to Israeli generosity, or being radical, or being
generosity. Extreme.
The generosity that we allow them to, I don't know, to be. So it is probably not the general. It is an idea that the Palestinians are here because of our goodwill, not because it's their right, not because they are people of the land, not because they are natives here, not because they have been, their families have been here for hundreds of years.
Menachem Klein shares Amira Haas's views. He teaches at Bar Ilan University in Ramat Gan, just outside Tel Aviv, and says despite the majority of Israelis supporting full sovereignty over Jerusalem, the biggest split in opinion is towards the peace process.
On Jerusalem, the majority of the Israelis support Netanyahu's policy of exclusive Israeli sovereignty over East and West Jerusalem, as Israel defines it. Regarding the peace process, they may split, okay, the Israeli public and Netanyahu if the circumstances changes and there is a package deal. So I assume that the center will move towards the left and leave Netanyahu with the right wing. Regarding a package deal with concessions. But
what kind of concessions are you talking about when a lot of the things have already been decided between the US and Israel?
Yeah, okay, you are right, and we can elaborate later on it. But if, for instance, there is a package deal of establishing a Palestinian state over most of the West Bank, okay, and of course Gaza Strip, and so then with the evacuating settlements, security arrangements, there a split can happen between Netanyahu, the right wing, and the right wing, and the Israeli center, and moving towards the center moves towards the left. Will it be enough for the Palestinians to agree on? I doubt.
Tell us about the pressures on Prime Minister Netanyahu specifically and on his government. You've got corruption allegations. How is that feeding in, or how does that fit into this entire event?
Of course, it's normal for a politician to be worried about his future job. Okay, that's his profession. He wants to stay in power, and all of a sudden he faces allegations and investigation and probably sued by the state. His legitimacy is shaking, actually. Now by getting from Trump this present, it improves his perception. He can even say to the Israeli public, see, what I am very important for the security of the of the state of Israel, for the Israeli policy. I achieved this great achievement from the United States that back us with no division. It's not like Obama, so I must stay in power.
You said this Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem helps Netanyahu. Does it help Israel?
For the short run, for this government interest, yes. For the long run, definitely not. It killed the peace process because it goes beyond Jerusalem. Trump administration backs Netanyahu regarding the West Bank as well, not only Jerusalem, because Trump said that the two-state solution is acceptable for the United States if the sides agree, which means he gave Netanyahu a veto power, and nowhere in his statement you can find UN resolution, international law, international legitimacy that balance between the strong Israelis and the weak Palestinians. It creates a framework for the two-state solution. This framework is not there in Trump's statement, which means United States and Netanyahu stand side by side against the Palestinians, against the Arab League peace treaty, against the international law. That's the meaning, the far-reaching meaning of Trump declaration. It goes much beyond the location of the embassy, much beyond Jerusalem. It's about the West Bank as well.
Menachem Klein represents a section of Israeli society which is against the occupation. But other Israelis not only support this occupation, but the outright annexation of Palestinian lands. It's part of the right-wing settler movement, which has gained a larger voice in Israeli politics. People like Oren Hazan, the 36-year-old, is a rising political star and considers Prime Minister Netanyahu to be his mentor. He's also found inspiration in Donald Trump, gaining notoriety after taking a selfie with the US president on a recent visit to Israel. I ran into Hazan at the Knesset and asked him what he thought about the occupation of Palestinian land.
Yeah, no, it's not occupation. This is one of the biggest lies. 99% of the Palestinians, Arab, that live in Shomria and Judah and Benjamin, 99% of them live under the Palestinians' authority. They are not citizens. This is why those talks about occupation and apartheid, this is lie. This is the way
so
to
there is no occupation.
How you can say it? They have everything.
Israel is not occupying Palestinian territories in years.
But we need to remember, there wasn't a Palestinian nation up to 40 years ago. Jewish that live in Israel before the Declaration of Independence on Israeli state in 1948, they had Palestinian passport. They had Palestinians ID. We are Palestinians. You know, they called Palestina to try to separate between the Jewish to them land. Exactly, so you're
like you're a Palestinian as well.
Actually, of course, we're all Palestinians.
So you do believe in equal rights for all citizens of this land?
You try, you are very slippery how you say it. You go like this, but I will not let you, and I will explain it why. You look on modern history, 50 years ago, 6 days war. All Arabs decided that they want to destroy Israel, that they want to erase Jewish from the world. Exactly like the Germans tried to do in the Holocaust. Everybody attacked us. We won. They need to understand that we don't have a plan to move. They need to understand that if they will try to hurt us again...
Israel is one of the strongest states
in
the world.
I know. We are one of the most strong nations. We have amazing army, amazing technology. Everybody take from our intel. Everybody take from our technology. And when we go to Gaza, we can erase Gaza in 1 minute. With one rocket, we can erase all Gaza. Believe me, I know what I'm saying.
Antonio Guterres, the UNHCR said that Israel was targeting schools which were acting as refuges in Gaza.
Come on.
And that's where the civilian casualties took place.
I will not agree to speak on the UN. Those people that sit in the UN, most of them are radical anti-Semitic. They hate us. They move only from hateness. They live from war. They live by interest. They know as long as the conflict between Jewish and Arab Palestinians is still on, they make money from it. And I will not talk about those garbage people. You know, I'm using hard words.
I want to move this very quickly.
Yeah.
The two things I want to touch on. Very quickly. So, will there be a Palestinian state in these areas?
No, I will be very simply. Never be a Palestinian state, as long as they will continue to say, by the way, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, as long as he and others will continue to say that there is two-state solution, the peace will never come to our land. The only way to bring the peace and end this conflict is to make the other side to understand there is no to get your own state, not on our land.
So make them Israeli citizens or part
No, stay as an autonomy. Stay as the Palestinian Authority. We will support you. We will give you electricity. We will give you money if you need. If you use this money to support them.
But not full citizenship rights.
Why they need to be our citizens? Take them to Canada. Take them to Canada.
Some Palestinians do live in Canada.
Why not? You know where is the Palestinian state?
And the citizens of Canada.
Where is the Palestinian state? You know, in Jordan. 70% of Jordan citizenship are Palestinians. There will never be a solution. Only if we will say enough is enough, no hope for you, only one state, from Hermon to Eilat, from the Jordan to the sea, the state of Israel.
For the world's 2 billion plus Christians, the final weeks of the year are a special time. And there is no place more special than here, in the Palestinian town of Bethlehem, believed to be the birthplace of Jesus of Nazareth 2,000 years ago. It's where some of Christianity's oldest traditions are found, so it's not unusual. The city and the walls that surround it have become an expression of resistance against the occupation. And now Bethlehem is united in condemning Donald Trump's decision on Jerusalem, as Courtney Keeley explains.
This time of year, Bethlehem, it's full tourists from all over the world because, you know, here the place of Jesus Christ. But this year, Bethlehem is very sad. It's empty, no tourists, many cancellation of tourism.
As night falls in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Christianity, Adnan Soba, a local shop owner, echoes a widely held sentiment here.
Really, because Trump, he's broken our dreams. He broken every Palestinian dreams.
In Manger Square, next to the Church of the Nativity, built over the site of Jesus' birth, it's mainly local Palestinians visiting this year. Recent anger has also been directed at U.S. Vice President Mike Pence after President Donald Trump's divisive announcement.
It is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Pence's planned visit to the region has been postponed. Days of protest continue since the announcement, including clashes at the main Israeli checkpoint into Bethlehem, near the 8-meter-high separation wall that runs like a scar through the West Bank landscape and surrounds Jerusalem's twin city on 3 sides.
Palestinian leadership here in Bethlehem say President Trump has ruined the Christmas season, and slogans along this wall declare President Trump, Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and Mr. Pence, you are no longer welcome.
First, it means actually a betrayal of the local Christian community. The main theme going throughout the Bible is not occupation, but liberation from occupation.
Reverend Mitri Raab is a Palestinian Lutheran priest and professor at Al-Diyar College. He says the politics and beliefs of American evangelical Christians, including Vice President Pence, add fuel to the conflict.
The Christian Zionists, what they do actually is they think they can violate human rights in the name of divine rights. Christmas is all about the divine becoming human, so that actually all human life is sanctified. And you cannot violate it in the name of God, otherwise you end up with ISIS.
After decades of blood spilled in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Trump's words laid bare that neither goodwill nor peace appear to be on the horizon this holiday season.
If you really read the Christmas story of the Bible, you will find it's a story about a Palestinian Jew being born actually under Roman occupation, spending his entire life under occupation. That's our story. That story is continuing.
Courtney Keeley, Strait Talk.
And that's all for this special edition of Strait Talk from the Holy Land. If you've got any comments or suggestions, do share them with us at #Strait Talk. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Until next time, take care and goodbye.